Chris Froome, still good enough? Walking about cyclist Chris Froome, he is a champion, we all know it, though we wonder, is he still good enough? It's been a long time now, and a person can become more talented, but age is also a factor, right? Welcome back to cycling right now, you all. Let's talk about Froome in this video. And if you're Froome's biggest fan, do you like this video as well? And without wasting much time, let's get right into the details, and you can decide if he's still good enough. His full name is Christopher Clive Froome, and he was born on May 20th, 1985 in Nairobi, Kenya, and is a British cyclist who has won the Tour de France an unprecedented 4 times in the years of 2013, 2015, 2016, and 2017. Froome was born in Kenya to British parents who later divorced after his father declared bankruptcy. His mother is Kenyan and his father is British. He relocated to South Africa with his mother, who was a supporter of his cycling, and there he received an education and started training with the Kenyan cyclist David Kinjah when he was just 12 years old. Kinjah invited Froome on excursions with much older native Kenyan riders on simple motorcycles into the dusty rural hills outside of Nairobi. Froome learned to speak Swahili and a little Kikuyu, a regional language, and he was able to participate in these excursions thanks to Kinjah. After graduating from a boarding school in South Africa, he spent 2 years studying economics at the University of Johannesburg. However, in contrast to his 2 brothers, who both went on to become accountants, he chose to pursue a career in cycling instead. When Froome was 22 years old, he made the transition to the professional peloton and began racing for the South Africa team Konica Minolta. In 2008, he became a member of the South African-sponsored cycling team Barlow World and took part in the Tour de France, where he ended up finishing in the 84th position. He came to the notice of the British instructor Rod Ellingworth, who was intrigued by his climbing abilities and willing to overlook both his lack of experience and his tendency to crash during the twisting alpine descents. He was impressed by his climbing capabilities. Even though Froome competed for Kenya, he was a British citizen and carried a British passport. Ellingworth urged him to get a British racing license so he could learn from the expertise of British teams, even if Froome raced for Kenya. In 2010, he became a member of Team Sky, even though he struggled during much of the year with the symptoms of schistosomiasis, a parasitic condition. The next year, he placed second in the Vuelta de España, or Tour of Spain, and in 2012 he placed second in the Tour de France behind the British rider Bradley Wiggins, who won the race for Team Sky. In 2013, Froome won the Tour de France for the first time. That same year, he was also honored with the Vélo d'Or award for being the greatest rider of the year. And that same year, he was also given the role of leader of Team Sky. In 2015, he repeated as champion of the Tour de France. There was speculation that he might have used performance-enhancing drugs due to the consistency of his exceptionally high level of performance, which prompted the question. Following the conclusion of the 2015 Tour, Froome disclosed the results of his physiological testing to dispel rumors to the contrary. The following year, Froome became the first winner of the Tour de France in more than 20 years to successfully defend his title. This was even though he had crashed twice, had to sprint uphill on foot when his brake was damaged in an accident, and engaged in a daredevil attack while laying prone atop his handlebars in an arrow position while attempting to win the race downhill. Froome won the Tour de France for the 3rd time in a row in 2017, bringing his total number of straight victories in that race to 3. In that year, he also won by the smallest margin of victory, 54 seconds in that competition. Later on in the same year, he made history by being the first rider from the United Kingdom to win the Vuelta de España. In addition to that, he was the first rider in almost 40 years to win both that race and the Tour de France in the same calendar year. However, he did not pass a drug test that was administered during the Vuelta in España, since it was discovered that his urine contained double the allowed amount of the asthma medication salbutamol. Froome asserted that he had not exceeded the permissible dose of the medication, although he had raised the dosage as his asthma symptoms became more severe. After that, an investigation was begun, during which time Froome was permitted to continue competing. In May of 2018, he proceeded to create history by winning the Giro d'Italia, also known as the Tour of Italy. With this victory, he became only the 3rd cyclist in history to win the 3 Grand Tours in a row. After another 2 months had passed, the doping allegations against Froome were dismissed. Froome was involved in a catastrophic incident in June of 2019 in France while he was competing in the Critérium du Dauphiné. The accident caused several injuries, including a broken hip, and forced him to withdraw from the race. It was not until February of 2020 that he made his comeback in the racing world when he took place in the UAE Tour. However, in the middle of that competition, it was called off because of the widespread coronavirus pandemic. Froome earned a bronze medal in the men's time trial, which is a road cycling event at both the Olympic Games in London in 2012 and the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro in 2016. These medals were consecutive. In 2014, he debuted his co-written autobiography called The Climb, which was released to the public. And 2 years after that, Froome was inducted into the Order of the British Empire as an officer, or an OBE. Coming towards the present, due to a positive test for COVID-19, Chris Froome will not be able to compete in the 2022 Tour de France. The race's only four-time yellow jersey champion will not compete in Stage 18, which is the penultimate mountain stage of this year's competition and takes place from Lourdes to Hautacam. Unfortunately, Chris Froome will not take part in the start of Stage 18 as the test performed just before the start showed that Chris has contracted COVID, Israel of Premier Tech said. Chris's illness was discovered during the test that was taken shortly before the start. The remaining riders have all received negative test results and are now cleared to compete. Froome made his announcement in the form of a video statement saying, "Unfortunately, I've got some fairly unfortunate news to share with you this morning. A test indicated that I am infected with COVID. As a result, I will not be making the start today." Since his fall at the 2019 Critérium du Dauphiné, Froome has had the most success during this tour. His third-place finish on Alpe d'Huez from the breakaway highlighted the progress he has made in his rehabilitation. "I'm incredibly disappointed that I won't be able to roll into Paris and finish off this Tour de France," he continued. "I was looking forward to it, both for our team as a whole and me personally. This race will go down as one of my all-time favorites. I feel like I'm getting back on my feet, and I want to express my gratitude to everyone who's so supportive of me throughout this journey." Froome was racing in his 10th Tour de France, and this was only the second time he didn't finish. Now that the Tour of California is over, his focus will go to the forthcoming Vuelta in España, which is the next stop on the Grand Tour. He closed his remarks by saying, "I'm going to head home now, switch off for a few days, and refocus on being ready for the Vuelta de España later this season." What is Chris Froome's recent form? Froome returned to competition following knee tendon inflammation and took part in the Cerimônia Internazionale Coppi e Bertolli in March, as well as the Tour of the Alps a month later. However, he was unable to make substantial progress during either of these races. After finishing in 65th position at the Tour de Romandie at the beginning of May, he went on to achieve his best result since 2019 at the 2022 Mercantour Classic Alpes Maritimes, where he finished in 11th place. However, there have been some worries raised after Froome abandoned the Critérium du Dauphiné before the penultimate stage. At the time of his withdrawal, he was sitting in 76th position. "We also want to leave our options open and see what may be possible in terms of battling for a leader's jersey like we did last year," he stated. "We did it last year, so it's something we want to do again." However, hunting for stages is without a doubt the most crucial goal for us to accomplish in this year's Tour de France. Hey, that's going to do it for today's video. We'll see you in our next video. Please make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more info. Do you have any questions or comments for us? You know what to do. Leave them in that comment space below. And don't forget to hit that bell icon on your way out the door. Have a great rest of your day. And again, thanks for watching.